TCU, we haven't talked about the Horned Frogs. They looked much better. You want to talk about an unexpected win. It's not that they won that's unexpected, but they looked much, much better than I have been giving them credit for. Texas Tech looks much better against Eastern Washington, but Eastern Washington's a solid FCS school. They looked much better with Nick Shimonek than I thought they were going to. I thought losing Patrick Mahomes was going to be a bit of a tough blow for them to overcome. I believe they went like 5-7 last year. I did not expect an improvement into this year, but after week 1, I have to admit that I might be wrong. I definitely feel much more confident heading into this Arizona State game in 2 weeks. They have a bye this week. But Arizona State, that was to me an expected loss for the Big 12, but that could now be an unexpected win.
Chris Ross joins us from the Land Grant Gauntlet. Please join him there for the just about the best coverage of Big 12 football. You can hear him right there, and also his podcast, Quick Slant. All right. I think one of the discrepancies in our arguments here, Chris, would be that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I give it more of a national view. You're immersed in the Big 12 and looking at the conference from that standpoint. And I'm making comparisons between the Big 12 and the other 4 leagues that played much better out of conference this past week. So I'm only evaluating based on the 1 week, of course. That's all we have to go by, and I'm not trying to project into the future. So I made my conference rankings after the play was complete on Monday. In the ACC, I have rated as the 4th best or the 2nd worst conference in the Power 5. Now, most people would think I'm crazy, but again, I'm trying to emphasize that I'm not projecting. That doesn't mean that I think that the ACC is the 4th best. That means that the results on the field tell us that through 1 week that it played the 4th most favorable performance out there, with 4 losses against 6 games in the against the other major conferences.
Well, I don't know who the best conference is in America. I don't know who the worst conference, Power 5, is either. But if you want to say that's the Big 12, maybe. I mean, they weren't impressive in week 1 in the games we already talked about, but you have 2 top 10 teams and another 4. They're either in the top 25 or on the bubble. And we'll say 5 because I don't really count Texas. They're just, I can't believe they even got a vote after the Maryland game. So 5, half the conference is in top 25 contention with 2 top 10 teams. So if the Big 12 is the worst Power 5 and that's the case, then so be it. But I definitely don't think that the Big 12 is going to be a bad conference this season.
But what do the rankings mean at this point? So let's think hypothetically that Oklahoma, let's say Oklahoma turns out to go 2-10.
Oklahoma?
All we know about Oklahoma, they're not going to go 2-10, but let's say that this is what the conclusion to the season is. Right now, all we know is that Oklahoma beat UTEP. So basically, there are a zillion other teams. Pardon me?
We know a lot more than that. We know returning players. We know returning production.
Yeah, but this is all that they've produced on the field to date. We'll know a lot more when they step off the field at Ohio Stadium on Saturday night. But right now, we know that, for example, there are a number of teams across the country that are considered nowhere close to Oklahoma, but through 1 week, they actually played better than Oklahoma. So UCLA, I would not consider to be better than Oklahoma, but based on performance, they have accomplished more to date than Oklahoma has. They beat a mid-tier SEC team.
And got smoked in the first half.
But the final result was that they won the game. And
so
they
beat
a pretty good team.
Against, like you said, they got smoked by a mediocre SEC team. And Texas A&M is who Texas A&M is. I don't think
they won the game.
I'm sorry?
They didn't get smoked. They won the game.
They got smoked in the first half. That's what I'm saying. They got smoked by a team.
We were evaluating based on halves, but
I understand. Well, that game was a game of 2 halves. I mean, I'm not discounting the second half. All I'm saying is UCLA is clearly not a perfect team. If UCLA wants to play Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, those offenses, then so be it. I would welcome that matchup.
Sure, but you're dealing with hypotheticals. I'm dealing with the results on the field through week 1, and the Big 12 was nowhere close to the other 4 conferences. The other conferences all beat someone decent. The Big 12's best performance, again, was West Virginia against Virginia Tech. That was by far the best performance that the Big 12 had against a quality opponent.
Okay, but that was the only quality opponent they played in week 1. I mean, are you counting Maryland, who you said is a bottom Big 10 team, which in my opinion, from what I understand about Maryland, I don't follow the Big 10 all that much, but from the Big 10 people that I have spoken with, they expect Maryland to be an improved team and to contend in the probably about the halfway point of the conference, somewhere in there, maybe a little higher than that, but not. I mean, they're not going to contend for the conference, but they're an improved team.
Yeah, Maryland went 3-6 in the conference last year. I would be shocked if they went any better than 4-5 in the Big 10 this year. Yeah, so it wasn't so much that the Big 12 didn't come through on the opportunities that it had, because it only really had one, and that was, to me, the West Virginia Tech game, in which you could say, okay, big stage, like seeded matchup against the ACC, and the Big 12 didn't come through on the scoreboard, but it wasn't embarrassed. So I don't hold that game against the Big 12. So I'm giving West Virginia credit for playing well, taking the game down to the wire. Sure, it would have been nice for the conference had they won the game, but I don't hold that against West Virginia in the Big 12. What I hold against it is Liberty over Baylor and Maryland going to Texas and winning by 10 points in Austin. And then you just didn't have the matchups. You had to prove anything else. So nothing else could be proven, but there were 3 negatives and no positives. So this week's going to give us a little bit more to go on.